Hello, hello. Welcome to January 28th live stream. We're going to talk about how we react and behave when we sense that we're going to be judged or when we are judged, and how that many times can lead to us judging ourselves. If you're here, I would love for you to put in the chat um, where you're coming in from and what your name is, and ask any questions that you have. They don't have to be about uh, judgment in particular, but um, feeling judged many times can be a result of being raised to put other people first, to make sure that everybody else was okay, to feel like other people are more important than you, that their feelings are more important, that their opinions are more important. And so when we are taught those kind of thoughts and behaviors, we end up many times being very impacted by judgment from others. So if you're here, I would love for you to put in the chat again your name, where you're from, where you're listening from, and any questions that you have about being judged, people pleasing, all of that. I have two parts to this video that this live stream that I want to share. One is how judgment from others impacts us, and how we end up judging ourselves and how that impacts us. So if that sounds good to you, stay here and let's talk about those things. Um, Before I forget, I want to mention a couple of things. I put a video link down in the description that is a video that I did a few months ago about being judged and 5 steps that we can take to stop worrying about getting other people's approval. Um, Somebody put something in the chat so that I know you can hear me and that the chat is actually working. Where, oops, my chat is not working. Why is that? Maybe it's my keyboard. There we go. Where are you from? What? Okay. What questions do you have? I'm Imara. Am I saying that right? Sounds like a mirror from Idaho. Oh, sorry. Mirror. Mirror? Is that right? A mirror? Perfect. And you're in Idaho. Welcome. Welcome. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions about feeling judged, being judged, the self-talk that you have to yourself, again, please put them in the comments. A mirror, right? A mirror. I want to write that down to remember. Okay. Thanks for being here. So, part 1, when we judge ourselves, bear with me just a minute. I'm going to get an echo here. When we feel like we're going to be judged, we have some behaviors that are not beneficial to us. They don't serve us well. And I want to go over those. I have 5. We self-censor, right? We edit what we're going to say, what we're going to do. We self-censor in order to avoid being judged. And many times that means that we don't say our truth. We don't speak up. We don't speak our opinion about something because of that fear of judgment. So, something that you can ask yourself, because it's like we're wearing a mask or changing our personality, but something you can ask yourself is, what am I holding back on saying right now that feels true but is risky to say? And when we can start reflecting on how we are self-censoring, we can start to diminish that behavior, because self-censoring is not beneficial to anyone. It's not beneficial to us because we're not speaking our truth, and it actually is not beneficial to the other person either, because they are not knowing who we are. But maybe you're saying, "But Heidi, if I tell them my truth, they might leave or get mad or not be a friend to me anymore." Yes, that may happen, and I've had that happen, but we have to act regardless, because if they are going to require that you censor yourself in order for them to feel comfortable or for them to be in your life, that is not someone that is beneficial to you in your life. They are not serving you well in your life in order for you in order for you to have to censor yourself. For them, that is not a, what's the right word? That is not a person that is being truthful and honest about their relationship with you. They are they are gaining something by you not speaking your truth, whether that's comfort, whether that's the ability to control you or manipulate you, or for them to feel better than. All of those are possibilities, but is that who you want to have in your life? And speaking our truth is a way to start to discern who is in your life that is actually there because they truly love who you are, versus who is in your life because they are gaining something from you diminishing yourself. So that's a question you can ask yourself. Amira says, she's learning to speak her truth. It's so freeing, right? It's scary at first. It's really scary when we have grown up not speaking our truth, not speaking our mind. But many of us were taught that it was wrong to speak up, that it was wrong to tell our truth, that it was wrong to say no, right? It was wrong to set boundaries. And so we just learned that we just learned that behavior, that it wasn't okay to speak up. So I'm glad that you are learning to speak your truth and that you're feeling that freedom from that. The next thing that we do, or we possibly can do when we think we'll be judged. This isn't even if we are judged. This is just if we think we're going to be judged. We delay or avoid taking action on something. It could be something as simple as starting to do a passion project that you've been wanting to do in your life, changing careers, retiring, right? Going on a trip somewhere, something starting a new hobby. It could be anything. But if we think we're going to be judged, then how many times do you avoid doing the thing that might bring you extreme happiness and joy, but you're afraid of what other people will think? So, a question that you can ask is, what am I postponing because I'm avoiding a reaction from someone? Again, just starting to become aware of these things will help to turn them around. I would love, Amir, if you said, like, what helped you to start speaking your truth? What was it that you did that allowed you to start speaking up for yourself? Or what happened in your life? Like for me, it was when my third husband stormed out in a rage. I realized at that moment that I was the common denominator in all of my relationships. Now, he was upset about something very ridiculous, and if you want to um, see that video where I tell that story, I tell the whole story. It's a video that released the beginning of January, I believe, January 1st, I think. So if you want to see that story, you can go watch that video, and for the replay, I'll post it here somewhere on the screen, the link to that, and I will also put it, down in the description. Um, so but I realized I was the common denominator. If I don't make notes for myself, I'll forget. I realized I was a common denominator, and I realized that the one thread that went through all of my relationships was me not speaking my truth, right? And so I decided in that moment, that I was no longer going to live that way, and I started speaking my truth no matter how hard it seemed in every situation when I can. Now, I'm a work in progress as well, right? It doesn't stop and start overnight, right? Um we have to develop the skill of learning to say no because again, many of us were taught that it was wrong to speak up, to say no, to speak out for ourselves. The next thing that we tend to do when we think we're going to be judged is to over explain, right? Maybe you are going to retire or change jobs or take on a passion project or start a new hobby. And before you actually do it, you're talking to someone about it and you start explaining it before they've even said a word because we think we have to defend our choices and our truth. So that is we preemptively like judge ourselves basically by explaining before they have a chance to judge us. So a question you can ask yourself, what do I feel like I need permission for something that I've already decided in my mind is something I want to do, right? And really look at deep inside, like, where do I think I need permission? Or what permission do I think I need? And from whom? And how is that going to make this decision that I make better? The next thing we do, I talked about this a little bit already, is we people please, right? Um, we say or not say, or do or not do what we think will be liked versus what is our truth. And so, again, if you were taught this when you were young, then to not speak up, not say no, put other people's needs first, then people pleasing became a pattern for you, most likely, putting other people's needs first, thinking of them first, putting yourself on the back burner. And so when we think we're going to be judged, we start to get in this people pleasing. And all the things I've mentioned already basically are people pleasing behaviors. And people pleasing is kind of the umbrella of all of those behaviors, but you can also do those behaviors like self-censoring and delaying, avoiding action without being truly a full-fledged people pleaser, if you will. Maybe you weren't taught to put other people's needs first, but um, you still have a hard time with thinking you'll be judged, worrying about what other people think of you. So, a question to ask yourself because a lot of times we don't speak our truth. We back down when we fear we're going to be judged because we want to keep the other person comfortable. And I talked about that in a couple points back, right? Keeping them comfortable versus being a little bit uncomfortable ourselves while we speak our truth or while we let go of that fear of judgment, it's going to be uncomfortable to work your way through not fearing what other people think. But the more willing you are to sit in the discomfort, the more the discomfort will diminish. And then the fifth thing under this, what we do when we think we'll be judged is we stay small, we play small, we stick with the familiar and what's predictable. I just released a video last week. Actually, it was on Monday, last Monday on the 26th. about how I stayed in my 17-year marriage 15 years after I had found out he hadn't had an affair. Part of that, a big part of that was because our subconscious, our unconscious patterns are what basically run our life. So if you want to change something in your life, you have to look at what beliefs and what patterns you've developed over the years that are sitting in your subconscious, because your subconscious is in the driver's seat. You your conscious logical thinking is not in the driver's seat. It's a passenger. So if you want to drive your own car, if you want to steer your own ship, then you have to get in the driver's seat. You have to look at what programming, what conditioning has been stored in your subconscious. We're born like blank computers. And so everything that we experience and hear and are told up until about the age of 7 or 8, 9 or 10, somewhere in there, all of it goes into our subconscious as the software that runs our life. It's like having a computer. If there was no software in it, your computer couldn't do anything, right? We are basically like computers, and the software is the programming, the beliefs, the patterns, the conditionings, the thoughts, the talk that we were given when we were young. It all went in as basically truth. And so if you want to change something in your life, you have to look at what is stored in the subconscious. And that's what I help people do is um, through coaching, I can help you see the beliefs that you have that might be hidden in your blind spot that you don't even recognize that you're operating under. You don't even recognize many times who's steering the ship, who's driving the car. Just like me, it wasn't until I had that aha moment, until my husband stormed out in a rage, that I had this epiphany of, "Oh my gosh, I'm the common denominator here. What beliefs do I have about myself that are driving my life?" And those beliefs I discovered were that I didn't feel worthy of love, of a healthy relationship, that I didn't know, this was the belief that I didn't know how to be in a relationship, that speaking my truth was wrong, that speaking up was bad, that I should be good and nice, right? And so those were the beliefs, the subconscious beliefs, the blind spots that were driving the ship, steering the ship in my life. And no wonder I kept crashing, right? Because I was driving blind. So once I went to work on those things, my life shifted dramatically. And that was 7 years ago, 8 years ago. So that's what I do. I help people see what is in the blind spot so that you don't keep running into that barricade that's there. So we stay small because we unconsciously choose the familiar and the known, because that is what the subconscious knows as safe, and the subconscious's job is to keep us alive. And so in order to keep us alive, it keeps us stuck. It keeps us, I shouldn't say stuck, it keeps us in these patterns, the programming, the software, right? Because that's what is known. That's what's predictable. The subconscious isn't it isn't it doesn't have its own thought ability. So it only goes on predictability. And so what my subconscious learned is, if I speak up, I will get in trouble, right? And so not speaking up became the way to keep me safe unconsciously. And so those unconscious patterns keep us stuck in our life, right? Because we think the subconscious is keeping us in a safe place, but is it a place really truly that's serving us? That was a lot. James said, "I hate not knowing the future and it blinds my planning and place in the world." Okay, so there's a fear there, right? About needing or wanting to control something that we can't control, right? The future. Um, and yeah, I can definitely help you with that. Because there is there's a primal question that we all go through our life asking, and it develops when we're young, and we go through life asking this primal question. And if we unconsciously or not outright, but if we sense that the answer to that question is no or maybe, then we go into behaviors in order to get it to switch to a yes. And um, this is what Mike Foster, in his book, Seven Primal Questions, calls the scramble. So there are seven primal questions that he has found. And so you are operating under one of these primal questions. I might guess that yours is, am I secure or am I successful? By the way you stated that. I hate not knowing the future and it blinds my planning and place in the world. Absolutely. Or do I have purpose? Right? That's another one of the questions. Mine is, am I loved? So again, I would love to have a coaching session with you and we can go deeper, right? There's only so much that I can answer here, and answering it for you specifically is much more beneficial than generalizations, right? So I think the link to book a coaching call is in the description. So if you want to do that, I would love to have a coaching call with you and talk through that and see. I can give you tools and guide you in order to start breaking free of that fear of not knowing what the future is, because that's keeping you from planning your life, right? And creating the life that you want to live. So I would love to have a session with you. So what do we do? This is the second part of this. What do we do when we are judged, right? When someone actually judges us? And I'll tell you a couple things. Um, on my latest video that I put out, there were two comments 8 hours apart from two different people. One of them said, um, I can't read my own writing. He said, it would be different if you actually said something that made sense. So that's a judgment, and that's all that person said in the comments, right? They were judging me on, they watched the video, who knows how long of it, um, but they were judging me on that they felt what I was saying didn't make sense. Okay, that's their thought, right? The old me would have been probably pretty devastated by this, and I would have gone into explaining and justifying and getting pissed off and feeling like I needed to defend myself. And I would have felt probably pushed into a corner. Um, and again, I would have gotten um what's the right word? I would have gotten not angry, but partially probably hurt by that comment, because it's like we all want to be understood, right? We all want to be understood. So when someone judges me saying that, I'm not understandable, that I didn't say anything that made any sense, that can hit hard, right? But the old me would have taken it that way. And the new me is like, okay, where is this person? And this person has commented negatively on other videos as well. they shortly 3 strikes and they're probably going to be blocked. But then 8 hours later, another person said, it was a man, he said, "You're stunning." So, which one do I believe? That I make no sense or that I'm stunning, you know? So if we base who we think we are on someone else's judgment, then we are constantly going to be in a state of upheaval because how do I believe both, right? How do I believe that I'm bad and that I'm good at the same time? Is basically what it comes down to. But a lot of times we live in this black and white world that we think it has to be one way or the other. And so we go from judgment to judgment and they judge me harshly and I'm devastated and they judge me nicely and I'm, put on a pedestal. So how do we go forward with that? So, what we do when we're judged by others, we internalize, right? We make their opinion the truth of who we are. We make it mean something about us. Him saying it would be different if you actually said something that made sense doesn't mean anything about me. It says nothing about me. But when we fear the future or what other people think, we make it mean something about me, right? We make it mean something about us. And there's a saying that we are meaning making machines. We make meaning and stories everything, about everything. And how is that serving us? How is that serving you? So, a question to ask yourself um, yeah, what meaning did I assign that judgment about me? I could take the "you're stunning" and be like, "Oh, cool." They think I'm beautiful. They think I'm whatever, right? This positive thing, or the other way around. And I could think, wow, I'm no good at all, right? I must not be good at explaining myself. And for me, I have struggled with learning to use my voice and speak my truth and know that my story matters. So if I can impact one person with a video or with coaching or with what I'm doing in the world, I'm at the grocery store, right? If I can impact one person, then that's all that matters, right? And and I do that by speaking my truth and being who I genuinely am. And when we get judged from others and we react according to that judgment, then we are not being authentic. We're not allowing ourselves to be authentic. The next thing that we do is we defend or shut down. Like I said, when he said that, it would be different if you actually said something that mattered. I could have started defending myself. I could have commented back and made a made a point for, well, here's 5 points of the video or whatever. Or I could have gotten nasty, like kind of bitchy, right? And responded in a defensive way, like yeah, putting up my armor and defending myself. So if we defend or shut down, right? Many times we'll shut down to avoid more pain. I could stop making videos, right? I could stop doing these lives. I could stop making videos for fear that someone was going to judge me. And then when they did, I could make that mean that that was proof that I sucked at doing this. And then how does that help anyone else who are, watching and gaining value from me telling my stories, from me sharing my stories, and from me sharing from my experience and the wisdom that I've gained from all the crap that I put myself through by being a people pleaser for most of my life, right? So I could stop I could quit my YouTube channel, and then who would that help, right? That would only, it wouldn't benefit anybody. So, a question to ask is the way I want to respond, right? React. Is it coming from self protection or self betrayal? And I would say there's a difference between reacting and responding. If you think about the word react, it means to act again. Michelle said, "Thank you for having the courage and kindness to share. You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that sweet comment." Um, so reacting means to act again. So when we react to someone, we are acting again based on their action. And that is always going to be defensive. So ask yourself, am I reacting or am I responding? Responding means I step back and I think, okay, how do I want to show up in this? Do I want to just walk away because um it doesn't what's the word? It doesn't that person's comment doesn't I can't think of the word. It must be age. Menopause brain. It doesn't warrant a response. That's what I wanted to say. It doesn't warrant a reaction. My reaction to him or her, I think it's a him, would have just given them what they wanted. So many times responding, asking yourself, how do I want to show up in this? What do I want them to understand? What do they want me to understand about them? And I may go back to this comment and respond and say, what is it that you wanted me to hear by you saying that? Right? That's not defensive. That is maybe a person calling out for to be heard themselves because they don't feel heard in their lives. And so they're lashing out in places where they can. So, think about that. How am I responding or am I reacting? And how do I want to show up for my own well being, for my own sanity, for my own inner peace? The third thing that we do when we are actually judged is we replay it, right? I was the queen of rumination, just thinking it over and over and over in my head. How should I respond? How should have I responded? What should have I said? Why didn't I think of that? Right? Like all these things. And that is of no benefit to us whatsoever. Um, so, what we can ask ourselves is what part of that, what they said, am I still trying to resolve in myself? Right? If I started ruminating on this person's comment, and many months ago, actually, I think it was about a year ago, I had someone comment on my channel on one of my videos that I should dye my sad gray hair or start wearing a wig. And for heaven's sake, start wearing more vibrant makeup. Now, my first reaction to this was a little bit of shock. And then I laughed. I laughed so hard. I laughed so much. I told my mom about this comment and we laughed about it. So I didn't let it get to me. And I actually created a video about being judged. And I put that video link down in the description of this live. So you can go check out that video. And I talked about, how we shift our behavior many times when we're being judged, especially if we are someone who is afraid of what other people think of us. I don't care that she doesn't like my sad gray hair. I don't think it looks I don't think it's gray anyway, and that could just be denial in me, but that's just funny to me. But I refuse to dye my hair anymore. I refuse to highlight my hair. I refuse to put those chemicals on my skin, on my scalp, a place that goes straight into, right? It's really close to our brain. I just am trying to be as detoxified as I possibly can in my life, and that's one way that we do it. And luckily, I have this like natural. Um, one one guy called it a, what's it called when you have a birthmark. He said that we have birthmarks like in our hair strands sometimes. So I have this like really light color that people think is done on purpose, and that's just the way my hair is growing. So I'm very fortunate, and I just laugh at that comment. So, right, but I could have ruminated over it. That's the point of this. So what part of that moment, what part of that judgment, if I'm taking it personally, am I still wanting or needing to resolve in myself? The old me might have been hurt by that comment and been like, holy crap, maybe I do need to start wearing more makeup, or, start doing my hair different or whatever. Um, get rid of some of these lines, right? But they're laugh lines, they're wisdom lines, they're part of aging and, growing old beautifully, right? From the inside. It's not about the outer shell, because we can always look in the mirror and find something we don't like about ourselves. But are we looking inside, right? That's what really matters when it all comes down to it. So, what is it, right? Um, what is it that I'm still trying to resolve if I'm allowing someone else's judgment to change who I am or make me think differently about myself? The fourth thing that we can do is question ourselves, right? Doubt ourselves. We start doubting decisions that maybe we were previously at peace with. Someone says, "Well, why did you do that?" And up until that point, you were perfectly good with it. And now you start doubting, "Oh, why did I do that?" Right? Like, so what did I believe about what I was doing or about myself before this person weighed in? And do they have a valid point, or are they just someone who, like this person who has commented on other videos of mine saying it would be different if you actually said something that made sense, right? Um, are they just someone who has some unhappy part of their life that they are hell bent on taking out on someone else? The fifth thing is that we withdraw, right? If someone judges us, we can withdraw if we believe it. We pull back emotionally, socially, or creatively. I could stop last year when she commented about my sad gray hair and that I needed to wear a wig. The funny thing is that I used to do character reels on Instagram. So you can go over to Instagram if you want. It's Mastering Midlife with Heidi. And I have Penelope People Pleaser there. She wears a pink wig. So I have wigs, and I put the wig on in that video that I did last year about being judged. So if you want to go see that, you can go see that video. Again, the link for that video is down in the description of this live. But we withdraw, right? I could take myself off of YouTube because people are judging me, right? And again, how would that benefit anyone if I did that? So, a question to ask if you are hurt by someone else's judgment or if you're ruminating about it is, what did I stop offering after that experience? Again, it's important to not Hold on. If you don't know, I live in Phoenix and it's very dry here. It's the desert. And so sometimes, especially in the winter, when you're running your heat, and yes, it's a desert, but it still gets down to in the 40s at night. So when you run your heat, then it dries out everything, right? I need to get a humidifier in this room, I guess, when I'm talking a lot. Um, so I could have stopped doing YouTube videos when someone judged me so harshly, right? And these examples that I've given you are not the only examples. There have been plenty, but just like there are trolls on YouTube, there are trolls in our life, right? There are people that are unhappy, that are living in fear, and they end up taking those fears and that unhappiness and that discontent out on other people. And I don't need to say this, but I mean, we're experiencing that in the US right now, and that's all I'm going to say about that, right? There are a lot of people that are taking out their insecurities and their unhappiness and their complete discontent with their own life and themselves on other people, and it's very sad. So, I want to talk a little bit about how this how taking other people's truth about you personally can cause us to judge ourselves and turn that back around on ourselves. Peter Crone, who is deemed the mind architect, he says, other people's words will only hurt you to the degree you already believe them. Ouch, right? I had a client who came to me, and I always ask my clients, what's your goal? One goal for working together. What's your main goal? And her main goal was to stop letting other people's words hurt her. We worked together, I coached her, and she got to that point where she started recognizing that she was allowing this to happen, right? And that people are going to be people, and that she was making meaning out of their words. She was making their words mean that she was less than, or she was making their words become her identity about herself. And she was allowing other people's words to control her life. She was allowing them to manipulate her. She was allowing them to diminish her, to demean her, and to make her believe that she was less than, that she was not a child of God, that she was not put here for a purpose, that she was not worthy of being talked kindly to, right? So she started believing all this stuff. Again, all of that was beliefs that she had grown up with, that she had created, some of them about herself based on what she experienced, and they became truths about herself. And so we worked together, and that shifted. I saw it shift in her. So when we judge ourselves, we start not accepting ourselves, right? We see ourselves as a problem versus human. I'm there is no such thing as perfect, right? Although there is, right? We are all perfect in our own way. But we're not measuring ourselves by anybody's yardstick. And when we do, then that becomes the problem, because we think that we're the problem, that, like Taylor Swift says, right? Is it her? um it's me, I'm the problem. um Daniel says midlife, closer to end of life. No, W- every day. It doesn't matter if you're in midlife or you're 10, you're still getting closer to the end of your life every day, right? So I'm not quite sure what what you're asking, or if you're just making a comment, or what that means. Michelle said, absolutely true, that very, very sad, right? That we let other people's words hurt us. Um, so we don't accept ourselves. We see ourselves as a problem versus being human. Then set impossible standards. We set this yardstick for ourselves, this ruler for ourselves, that we have to meet these standards, otherwise we're not good enough, right? And we punish ourselves then when we fall short. So we use those standards then as a weapon to beat ourselves up, thinking that if we beat ourselves up enough, we'll do better, like that we can punish ourselves into being better. But that's not how we become better within ourselves. That's not how we become more authentic, by punishing ourselves. It's by having compassion. And that's the next thing, is we get this really negative self-talk when we allow other people's judgments to make us start judging ourselves. Again, we think if we judge ourselves harshly, that we'll do better, but it doesn't work that way, right? If you think about a kid, if you punish them, if you judge them, the behavior that comes after that is going to be much different than if you are compassionate with them, if you are empathizing with where they're coming from, what happened to them, right? And why they behaved the way they did. We all develop these behaviors because of as coping mechanisms. So if we can have compassion and empathy and try to understand, why did this kid act out, then they can feel understood and feel heard and seen, versus feeling punished and feeling bad and feeling wrong and feeling like they're the problem. And those two dynamics will completely send a kid down two different complete roads. The same thing is true for ourselves. If we punish ourselves, if we diminish ourselves, if we beat ourselves up because we know we could do better, we know that this was a wrong thing to do, that just sends us further down the wrong road. It can cause depression. It can cause more self-defeating behaviors, more self-sabotage. Whereas if we say, okay, how did I react out of an old fear, an old pattern? I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel understood. How can I see and understand myself? How can I respect myself in this moment? How can I have compassion for myself, that I'm just human? One thing if you're trying to make changes, judge yourself honestly, right? But even the word judgment just has, like, the gavel type um connotation to it, right? So it feels harsh. Let's have compassion for ourselves. Let's look at ourselves honestly, right? That's different than judging to me. And a couple, actually, it was last year, I was in a journaling exercise, a journaling group, and we journaled every day together as a group for 10 days, not 10 days straight, um, for an hour. And we didn't journal for an hour either. We had discussion, all of that. And that reminds me of something else that I want to talk about. Um, but in that, one of the days we were given prompts to write about, to journal about. And one of the days it came up about judging and forgiveness, I think. And what I wrote, and this was a huge aha for me, is that, we talk about, I can't move on, or we're taught, I can't move on until I forgive myself. And as I was journaling, I realized, what do I really have to forgive myself for? Because I am just running the patterns that are in my subconscious. Now, I'm not saying this to say it's okay to be mean and cruel and a bad person. I'm saying it to to express that I've done a lot of things that I could judge myself, and I have really harshly for in my life, that I've had shame for, and that I thought I had to get to this point of where I was so enlightened that I could forgive all of that and then I could move on. But what I realized is I don't really have anything to forgive myself for because I was just running the patterns that I was taught. Right? I was taught to not speak up, which got me into 3 marriages. I was taught to not say no, not, um, put myself first, not to brag about myself. And so I diminished myself in ways and had behaviors that were very unbecoming. But again, judging myself for them in order to do better, or even judging myself honestly, that just feels judgmental, right? Having compassion and having understanding that I didn't do it maliciously, those things. I did it because I didn't know better. I wasn't taught differently. I I I just was running again the patterns that I was given. So, I won't say anything more about that, but I guess I will say one more thing about that. This negative self-talk, right? I would love, Daniel, for you to know, like, when you say judge yourself honestly, like, what does that look like, right? And what I would say about that is the negative self-talk that we have a lot of times, the question I would ask is, would I say what I'm saying to myself right now to my friend? And usually the answer is no. So if I'm judging myself that way, if I'm not having compassion for myself for something I did or said, then that is truly not beneficial to you in your life. It's not going to serve you because staying in that negative self-talk loop just keeps us on that negative track. Let's see. The last thing is, no, the second to last. We end up defining ourselves by our mistakes instead of what we bring to the world, right? We end up focusing on what we've done wrong, what we um what we didn't say right, what we didn't do right, our failures, and we end up identifying with that. And our identity is one of the strongest things that takes us through our life and what creates our actions, because we cannot be something that we aren't. And our identity is what tells us what we are. For example, someone who identifies as being a smoker cannot not smoke because that is in their identity. The beautiful thing is that most people don't realize is we can change our identity, and we do that one way through self-talk. So, that's why I think, Daniel, the word judge for me is not a word, like, I don't want to say that people are broken or aren't broken. Using the word broken feels negative, right? Like the word judged feels negative. So, what I like to say is that People have been covered up by all the rules and the rubble. And if you think of it, Mike Foster talked about this in the training that I'm doing with him. And he talks about how he likes to look at it like we're covered up with all these blankets of um, negative self talk or negative talk from other people. So we're covered up with all these blankets. And what I do as a coach, or what you can do on your own, is like Daniel said, not judge yourself honestly, but start recognizing what are these blankets, what is this rubble and rules that you have gotten covered up in and buried under, and how do you start removing that all of that off of you so that you can shine and be your authentic self. So we define the fourth thing was we judge ourselves, we define ourselves by our mistakes versus, the beautiful human beings that we're put here to be, and the purpose that we're here to serve and help other people and love other people. And then the fifth thing is when we judge ourselves, we live like we're on probation. We we try to um we try to earn things. We delay rest, we delay relaxation, we delay pride, right? Being proud of yourself for something you accomplished. So you don't celebrate it because you don't want to brag. You don't want someone else to feel diminished. We delay self trust. And so we like put ourselves on probation until we earn it, until we deserve it. And that was a big thing for me when I was young. And I could have made this up in my head, right? But it doesn't matter. That became the story is you don't deserve it. You didn't earn it. And so we're constantly in this war with ourselves that we haven't done enough to be deserving or to have earned it. So that's what happens when we start judging ourselves. And again, I want to repeat that quote by Peter Crone. He said, "Other people's words will only hurt you to the degree you already believe them." So I hope this has been helpful to you. Let me see if I missed anything. Um, so Daniel, it's just he said we live to 120 now. Um, this is just semantics on words. Uh, yeah, so I think I covered everybody's comments. Um, so again, there's a video link down in the description about being judged. You can go check out that video. Michelle said it's been very helpful for me. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being here very much. And I am starting a women's wisdom circle called Choosing Me. It will be, I believe, starting February 18th. It will be 6 or 7 sessions. And if you're interested in that, make sure that you're on my email list so that you are informed. This will be, again, it's a women's wisdom circle. So this will be for women. Make sure that you're on my email list. If you aren't getting emails from me, comment here and I'll get you a link so that you can get on that list, so that you get emails about, all the information about that. We're working on putting that and finalizing all of that information now, but it's going to be, again, a 6 or 7 session wisdom circle that is very intimate. It will be a small group, and we will be talking about self-acceptance and, being able to look in the mirror and accept all the parts of you so that you can show up in the world fully as you, your authentic, genuine self, the person that you were put on earth to live as and to show up as. So I would love to see you in that group if that seems like something that it resonates with you. I would love to support you in that. Oh, thanks, Daniel, for saying that. I appreciate it. I learned judge equals bad. Again, it's not really good or bad. It's just what is the story that we're creating around it? And just being careful about what meaning we're making it mean. And and that's really all it is. It's awareness. And I appreciate you so much. Um, Oh, Daniel means judge. I'm deeply offended by your opinion. Okay. Um, Again, it's my opinion. It doesn't have to be your truth, right? Don't make it your truth. So I appreciate you all being here, and I will catch you in the next live. Every live, I'm going back to my original schedule. Live every Wednesday at 2:22 East Coast time. So I will see you here next Wednesday. And thanks again for being here. I appreciate you.